MMA, known for its high-energy matches where fighters push their limits to win and become the best. The UFC is not just about physical fights, it's about emotion and mentality. Today, we're taking you through the 10 most emotional moments in the UFC. 1. Daniel Cormier's defeat and heartfelt goodbye. Daniel Cormier, DC, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters ever, had an Olympic wrestling background. He was well known in Strikeforce and later made a name for himself in the UFC. His career is an inspirational story of an underdog who overcame strong opponents through his courage and dedication. He remained undefeated till he met the pound-for-pound king, John Bones Jones. Jones defeated Cormier in their first match. The rematch was scheduled but got cancelled after Jones tested positive for banned substances. Cormier then fought Jones at UFC 214 in 2017 in an intense match, where Jones defeated Cormier with a head kick and a series of punches. Cormier was seen crying in the post-fight interview with Joe Rogan, stating that since he lost both bouts, there wasn't a rivalry. Cormier announced his retirement from MMA after his fight with the heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic, whom he had defeated in the first round and won heavyweight gold in the prior year. He wanted to cement his legacy as the greatest heavyweight of all time. However, things didn't go as planned. DC suffered a brutal eye injury after a hard eye poke in the third round of the fight. This deeply affected his vision and may have cost him the fight. Seeing such a great fighter end his career as a runner-up was heartbreaking. 2. Anderson Silva's defeats. Anderson the Spider Silva is known to be the GOAT of mixed martial arts. He is one of the most skilled strikers and is popular for his ability to have fun at the expense of his opponent in the cage. He successfully won 16 fights and remained undefeated until he fought against the younger contender Chris Weidman. However, Silva didn't treat Weidman as a threat and goofed around the cage, becoming careless and even letting Weidman punch him in the face while his hands were dropped. Everyone enjoyed the show until Weidman scored a clean left hook on Silva, knocking him out cold and shocking everyone. The world criticized Silva for not taking the fight seriously and expected him to take back his title in the rematch that was fixed between the two. However, they were disappointed by the results. Weidman checked one of Silva's leg kicks, snapping his leg in half. Fans winced at the sight of Silva's painful injury and knew that this was the end of an era. This moment remains one of the most depressing moments in UFC history. 3. Walt Harris loses to Alistair Overeem. Walt the Big Ticket Harris is a pro MMA fighter who competed in the heavyweight division of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. In late 2019, he faced the tragic loss of his stepdaughter, Ania Blanchard, who was abducted in Alabama and was found dead after a month. Instead of taking time to grieve, Harris returned to fighting and faced Alistair Overeem for his first fight back. He was motivated and entered the arena showing off his Fighting for Ania t-shirt. He dropped Overeem in the opening round. However, the veteran turned the fight around in the second round and finished off Harris via ground and pound in round 2. Harris, fighting back tears, thanked the UFC team and his community. He said, "I'm sorry I didn't get the W for you tonight. I'm sorry. I'll be back better. I'm gonna go home and recover. I will heal emotionally and physically, and I promise you I'll be better." 4. Randy Couture calling it quits. Randy Couture, one of the founders of the UFC and the first champion fighting in 2 weight categories, was supposed to fight Lyoto Machida, and it was a fight that determined Couture's fate. Lyoto Machida, who had just lost his UFC light heavyweight title, was supposed to take on Randy Couture. The bout ended with Machida delivering a powerful crane kick to Couture, which led to a KO. It was tragic in itself that the hero who had inspired a lot of people had to leave MMA for good. 5. Chuck Liddell's retirement from UFC. Chuck the Iceman Liddell was one of the biggest stars of the 2000s and the most popular figure in the world of combat sports. He was known among UFC fans for his unique fighting style. He relied on his speed and punching power. He defended the title of the heavyweight championship 4 times, but eventually lost it to Quinton Jackson via TKO. He lost 4 of his last 5 fights in the UFC after taking intense damage inside the octagon. Rich Ace Franklin knocked him out in his last fight. It was a painful scene for the viewers. After the fight, he choked up while giving a heartfelt speech to the UFC and his fans. 6. BJ Penn, the end of an era. BJ Penn, the UFC light heavyweight king and MMA legend, retired after 3 tough losses to Nick Diaz, Rory MacDonald, and Frankie Edgar, which was a big decline in his career. In his retirement speech, he said he stepped back in to get closure. He couldn't live with the what-ifs. The end of an era for one of the all-time greats. 7. Robbie Lawler's win against an unmotivated Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz is a UFC title challenger, Strikeforce, WEC, and IFC champion, and the older brother of Nate Diaz. Nick did not appear in the octagon for nearly 7 years until he returned at UFC 266 to face Robbie Lawler. During the intense round 3 of the match, Lawler landed a right hook and busted Diaz's nose. Diaz was never the same, returning in the worst shape of his life and staying there. He later admitted that he didn't want to fight and knew this would be coming. This marked his last fight since then. 8. Alexander Volkanovski dominates the Korean Zombie. UFC 273 is in the books. A wild night of action where Alexander Volkanovski, a UFC featherweight champion, brutally defeated Chang Sung-jung, the Korean Zombie, a legend, to retain his title of being the top featherweight champion in the world. This fight was a one-sided affair from the beginning. Volkanovski hammered the Korean Zombie for almost 4 rounds and even asked him if he wanted to keep going at the beginning of the 4th. When your opponent is offering you mercy, it's a tough night for sure. Referee Herb Dean mercifully stopped the fight in the 4th round. It was a heartbreaking scene for the Korean Zombie's fans. 9. Makwan Amirkhani chokes out Mike Grundy. Mike Grundy was scheduled to fight against Makwan Amirkhani at UFC London in 2022. Grundy entered the cage with his family waiting and supporting him beside the cage, along with his terminally ill father, whom he dedicated the fight to. The crowd had expected Mike Grundy to win the match. However, Amirkhani ended it within the first minute of the 1st round with a guillotine choke followed by an anaconda choke. Grundy twisted and tried to roll away, but Amirkhani's grip only strengthened until he put Grundy to sleep in just 57 seconds. The tragic fight was heart-wrenching for his family and fans to watch. 10. Khabib Nurmagomedov retires after beating Justin Gaethje. Khabib the Eagle Nurmagomedov is a former Russian professional mixed martial artist and one of the greatest UFC lightweight champions. His fight against Justin Gaethje at UFC 254 was the first one after he tragically lost his father and coach, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, due to heart complications worsened by COVID-19. Abdulmanap had played a major role in molding and training Nurmagomedov to become a fierce fighter. His passing took a toll on him, and he was not ready to be back. However, to honor the memory of his father, Nurmagomedov defeated Justin Gaethje with a 2nd-round triangle choke submission, claiming his 29th victory and retaining his lightweight title. He wept in the octagon and asked his teammates to cut his gloves off so he could officially announce his retirement. He shared, "It was my last fight. There's no way I'm going to come here without my father. My mother didn't want me to fight without my father, but I promised her it was going to be my last fight." This was marked as one of the saddest moments in UFC history. That wraps up the video. If you enjoyed this video, please show us your support by liking our video and subscribing to our YouTube channel with the bell notifications on so you never miss another upload on our channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.